get up, get up, get up.
What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast, episode 116, a nice and easy and relaxing episode for you guys because the Mets took care of business. They faced those Cincinnati Reds, and they smacked them around all week. It was not a very competitive series, but that being said, we got to celebrate the easy ones sometimes. So we're still going to talk about everything that went on during this series, as well as we have a special guest in the second half of this episode, Matt Eddy from Baseball America, going to go through the Mets farm system. They just dropped their top 30 prospect rankings for their website over there, their publication, and we're going to go ahead and talk with him about the Mets prospects, some of the guys that you could see in the future for this team. So stick around for that. Really awesome interview. We had him on last year. Can't wait for you guys to hear that again this time. If you are not yet following us on all our social media, make sure you are at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Check out the Twitter. Specifically, we are giving away a signed Starling Marte baseball because we did just hit 5K followers over there, so we do appreciate you guys. We want to give back, and we got a Starling Marte signed baseball for you, so go ahead and enter that. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, drop us a rating, drop us a review. It really does help us out. Make sure you download that podcast. And, of course, the YouTube video will be available over on the New York Mets YouTube channel. So now we go ahead and bring in James. James, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Probably one of the chillest Mets series of the entire year, at least since we've started doing this podcast.
Honestly, like you said, since we've started doing this, I can't remember an easier, more straightforward series. Like literally start to finish, the Mets had control of this entire series, didn't relinquish it once, and it was really, really easy.
The Mets literally didn't relinquish it. The Mets did not trail for 1 second in this series.
They haven't trailed in how long now? It feels like they haven't trailed in like a week.
6 games, 54 innings. The Mets have not trailed.
That's pretty close. That was pretty close to a week there.
Doesn't make any sense. Like this is like not that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. It's a great team, but this is like the most dominant stretch of Mets baseball I can remember at any point, literally in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to like that 2015 team when they started to get hot towards the end, and then they eventually ended with the clinching in Cincinnati of the National League East. But the Mets are just clicking on all cylinders right now, and while the Reds are not even close to the same competition as the Braves or even the Phillies that we have to face coming up, it is good that the Mets saw a team that is like, they're like a wounded deer. And we've mentioned this before, but they pounced. They attacked, and the Reds really had no shot ever.
This back-to-back episodes, we compared something to a wounded deer, but in this series, just to take like a full-on view of it, I like using the number 50%. It's a really good number that a lot of people think about all the times. The Mets had 24 turns at bat in this series, which is hilarious. Their home team, they only hit 24 times, no ninth innings. And they scored at least one run in 12 of those 24 innings.
That's
so
incredible.
50% of the times the Mets came to bat in this series, the Mets scored the run. Also, we're going to stick with this 50% theme. The Mets as a team had a .542 on-base percentage in this series.
That's
so
disgusting.
More than half of the Mets that came to the plate in this series against the Reds reached base.
I mean, I saw a stat at one point during Game 3 today about Daniel Vogelbach that he has a 1,400 OPS with this team, and he's been getting on base at like a .560 rate. Like, he has been so good. We've said it now for multiple episodes now, but what are they, like 15-2, 16-2 or something since they brought in Dan Vogelbach? Pretty good.
Yeah, I believe just the 2 losses. The Mets also just totally outscored the Reds 21-5 in this series. 12 different Mets had hits. Oh, wait. Okay, that .542 on base percentage thing, not true. John's getting me an updated stat right now. It was misrepresented before in the outline. .542 on base percentage to start innings, the leadoff hitter of every innings.
That's so still pretty good.
I'll still take that one right to the bank. More than half of the Mets who started innings in this series reached base.
That's pretty sick. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they outscored them 21-5. They were just simply better, especially offensively. And the Reds pitching, especially now, even without a guy like Hunter Green, not very good, I would say.
No, definitely not. I feel like the Reds kind of do this every single year, at least the last few years. Besides those last 2 years where they were good, it's always like Cincinnati Reds set a record for 57 straight games started by a rookie. Like, I don't know how they managed to keep setting and resetting this record every single year and throwing out guys like Justin Dunn, the famous big-time prospect, former first-round pick in the Mets, a part of that trade that we never talk about. Who's the guy today, TJ? How do you pronounce his name? Zoik?
TJ Zoik, who was with, I believe, the Blue Jays previously. He's a big dude who throws like a big sinker, but man, he doesn't strike out guys and he walks a lot of dudes. It was not a very good start for TJ Zoik on the mound. Also, fun name, Zoik. You don't get that often.
Yeah, Zoik. And John is now writing in the outline that Zoik is from Mason, Ohio. Hilariously, I have a funny connection
How?
that goes back to this show from Mason, Ohio. You remember? You guys might remember it last year when the Mets were playing the Reds. I told my Skyline Chili story about like a friend of a friend, like 1 year in college. Like I have this great chili place, and I love chili. Brought me to Skyline, and I just couldn't even fathom how disgusting it was.
Was that in
that
Mason,
kid is from Mason, Ohio.
Oh my God. How do you, I know you went to Ohio State, but the idea that you have a story with seemingly every single city in the state of Ohio is unbelievable. Like the Tommy Hunter interview, he mentioned like some very small town. You're like, oh yeah, you named a restaurant, I believe.
Oh no, they have I forgot the name of the town now. Oh, Hinckley. Literally one of my best friends from school is from Hinckley, Ohio. They have the Buzzard Festival. And I mentioned the Buzzard Festival of Tommy Hunter. He's like, yep, I know the Buzzard Festival. I have a glass in my kitchen from the Buzzard Festival. So shout out you, Christine. I stole it.
How is that even? Ohio, that's a very proud state. They're very proud to be from Ohio. One of the proudest, I would say.
Yeah, go Bucks. OH, baby. Big game coming up. Couple weeks.
Yeah, it's no Clemson.
No, and to just transition here, we got Chris Bassitt from Ohio, I believe.
Ohio,
Yep. He was the big story in the first game of this series just because the Mets had come in after this grueling 5-game series with the Braves, coming off no off days, of course, with a 5-game series last week, coming straight from the Nationals. Bullpen was beleaguered. We said it from the outset because I believe he had a 10-pitch first inning, and we looked at each other at this game. We were like, I'd like to get 8 today, maybe 9. And Chris Bassitt, my guy's got that dog in him. He really went hard, got gutted out 8 innings and 114 pitches when this bullpen was mostly dead, and found a way after starting off very hot, then kind of hitting a lull, a lot of guys getting on base against him in the middle. Found 5 strikeouts over the last 3 innings, keeping the Reds off the board. Those 5 strikeouts are very important to some people, including Mark and I, towards the end of this game.
Very important considering we had the overs on the strikeouts. You got it at 5.5. I got it at 6.5. And we were sweating. Little did we know. We had cleared it multiple strikeouts before it actually happened.
Not paying attention. We were in the outfield concourse, kind of where you couldn't see the strikeout totals. We're just kind of like free balling our analysis there. But Mets really needed that, dude. The Mets really needed some innings, and Chris Bassitt all year has been reliable for consistent, sturdy, steady innings. He is an innings eater. I think he referred to himself as an innings eater after this game with the press. Like, what do you go out there and do? He's like, I'm eating innings, baby. This is all I want to do. Pitch well enough for my team to win, not let those guys in the bullpen get any work done.
The Bassitt Hounds. We haven't done that in a while. I mean, watching him pitch was really great. It was also cool. We were out at the ballpark, like you mentioned, before the game, just for you guys, getting a little peek behind the curtain. If you're following us on Twitter, you saw a little bit. But we got 2 more interviews coming at you with some players. We talked to Tomas Nido before this game, which was a killer interview. That guy's absolutely hilarious. And we got Tyler Naquin, or as we should say, Naquin now, because technically it's how it's actually pronounced. But we got those guys coming at you soon. It was cool to see those guys before the game. Tyler Naquin, of course, been a beast since he's come to the Mets and was a beast in this series as well.
Yeah, Tyler Bonds, he actually got the big hit in this game. Because this game 1 was kind of weird. It's hard to remember it now after the Mets just pulverized the Reds in back-to-back nights. They're not really pulverized, just really Wednesday was the pulverization. But
yeah, it was. I wouldn't
call
call
game was close-ish. This was one of those games where you felt like this is one that you could see in a different parallel universe, the Mets bullpen blowing. Not this one, though.
No, a good Mets team wins these games. Like this, like you said, in previous years, maybe this is a little bit different. But like the Mets won this one because they are just simply the better team. That's really what it came down to in this.
Yeah. Naquin got the big 2 RBI triple, I believe, in the 8th to put it out of the reach. Starling Marte.
So close.
I know. It literally hit the top of the wall. And also in between this, I don't remember who hit the ball, but the Albert Almora robbed home run. Who hit that?
Was it Pete? I think it was Pete, right?
Might have been Pete. It could have been Pete, which is also funny because, and just being at the ballpark, it's like, I'm going to lay some bets down. And I bet a parlay of Naquin and Pete to both hit home runs. And there's a chance, I don't remember if that poem with the Pete was true, but there would be a chance I lost that bet on like 4 total inches.
Yeah, it was extremely close. Of course, Albert Almora, too. The guy who was so horrible with the Mets last year.
It was such a good catch. I was literally standing like on the outfield wall when it happened. I looked and I was like, oh my God. I like let out like an expletive latent tirade, and there was a couple next to me like eating.
Okay, actually it was Lindor on that home run.
It was Lindor. Okay, makes sense.
Right. Dude, like when the Mets win, honestly, I start to forget the little details like that, especially when there's so many great things to remember. But I don't want to talk anymore about Albert Almora. Tell me more about what happened with those Mets and how good they are, James. You got the stats.
I mean, what else even happened? There weren't even any stats. Like, it was cool to see Justin Dunn, grew up in the area, Mets first round pick. Yeah. He's allegedly said he'd never get back to the major leagues. Cool to see him get back there.
Really? He said that?
Apparently, John said he said it right here.
That's crazy because he's always been a guy who the ceiling's probably moved on quite a bit since he was drafted out of Boston College. But he's always a guy that's like, well, he kind of throws strikes-ish, like he nibbles a little bit, which we saw in this game at the start. but he's never been a guy that like you'd be like, oh, I don't know if he's going to be able to. Like he'll probably stick around for quite some time.
Well, it's because he's had some shoulder injuries, I think is what he meant.
Ah, okay. I thought he was talking about like shoulder or injury plus talent wise. He was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, which I'm glad for Justin Dunn, a guy who follows me on Twitter, so friend of the podcast, but no longer a Met, so don't really care.
Yeah, and then otherwise, like the other cool thing I think we should talk about from Monday being at the game is that we met a lot of fun Mets Twitter personalities, hung out with them for a while there.
Yeah, we bumped into Jenny Mets, which if you guys don't know him, he has a big Twitter account over there. I think he's got like 40-something followers. Really nice dude. Hung out with him for a couple innings.
You said 40-something. It'd be hilarious. We were just shouting him out and he had like 47 followers.
No, 40,000. Oh, 40,000. Yeah, I guess I didn't say the 1,000. 40-something. Yeah,
so
40-something 1,000 is completely different than just 40-something.
He's got 40-something followers. He's decent. He's all right.
Yeah, you should check him out. He's got 42 followers. That would really be a good shout out. He'd appreciate that even more. We also bumped into Joe DeMayo, who does the Mets pod over with SNY. Hung out with him for a few innings, talking about prospects with him off the record, but a lot of really good stuff, which was nice.
Yeah, Jacob Resnick, too, who does a minor league podcast with Joe DeMayo. Talked to him for a little while. Never met him before. That was cool. Antagonized him to follow me because I had followed him like years ago when I had like 80 followers. And I'm sure he just like saw my tweets and was like, oh, yeah, that's James. And I was like, yo, you got to follow me on Twitter. And he was like, okay, yeah, man, follow me.
Yeah, Jacob Resnick is a legend. If you really do like minor league stuff, we've said it a bunch of times on the podcast before, but definitely drop him a follow. I don't know. I still don't know what his connections are, but he gets the videos of every single minor league team for the Mets before anybody. It's impressive.
I didn't even want to ask because it's just that impressive. I didn't want to trifle with it.
No, and I mean, do we meet anybody else? I'm trying to think now.
No, that's all we had.
Yeah,
and a couple fans. We met Luke the Legend.
Yeah, got to shout out Luke the Legend.
In left field.
That was
I think
very
that was basically
nice.
all, though.
Yeah, we were walking around handing out stickers. Again, if you ever see us, make sure you say, what's up? We got stickers for you. Oh, and Pin Man. Let's talk about Pin Man real quick.
Oh, that was really fun. Yeah, mention Pin Man.
Yeah, so we've sat near Pin Man before. What was it, the Giants series, I think? Which feels
the Rodon game in April. We sat with him for like 4 or 5 innings. My dad, too.
Feels like a year ago. But we had our stickers. Pin Man was sitting next to it. James, excellent networker out here, was just handing out the stickers to anybody who's everybody. Gave one to Pin Man. We were watching in the 9th inning when Ottavino got into the game, standing up behind there because we were getting ready to hop on the train afterwards. Long day at the stadium. And I see on the TV that Pin Man pops up, and he has his phone out holding a video. And I hit James. I'm like, that's our sticker. I think our sticker's on the back of his phone. Did you give him one? You're like, I definitely did. We went back onto YouTube TV. I scrolled back in time, got a screenshot of it. Pin Man had the Mets'd sticker. It was on SNY. Not national recognition, but regional recognition.
Regional recognition. I hope it had regional recognition by now anyway. Because also, I was on the way home on the train, taking the G train back to Brooklyn, and there was across from me on the train, there was this dad and son who were just arguing so hard about baseball minutia. I think I heard him talking about like 2005 White Sox. That's like the most forgettable World Series.
Scott Podsednik, Joe Creedy.
Yeah, I think I heard Esteban Loaiza mentioned. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember like some real dense baseball conversation. As I was getting off of my stop, they were still on. I went to the teenager kid, and I was like, hey, man, heard you arguing. I run Mets'd official podcast of the Mets. I really think you'd enjoy it. We talk about it. He was like, oh, I listen to you guys. I was like, oh, my God, nice. That's cool.
That's me.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Esteban Loaiza. Went to jail for a long time for doing a very illegal activity.
Yeah, I think he sold tons of drugs, if I remember correctly.
A lot of it. He's been released recently, I think, though. So hope the tides turn better for Esteban Loaiza.
Yeah, there you go. Rehabilitation. Now, move on to Game 2. Just briefly breeze through this series. Similar to Game 1, it was going to be nice to get length out of our starters just because we knew we had a big series over the weekend, still coming off that 5-game Braves situation. And Carlos Carrasco, as Keith would say, back in his rocking chair, just completely cruised through this Reds lineup. Gave up 7 hits, which I didn't even realize, like looking back at this game, because it really just felt so scattered. But 6 2/3, 9 Ks, second highest mark of him for the year with strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 earned runs. Mets have won the last 6 games started by Carrasco, 1.70 ERA in that span. Also, I think that's every start since the beginning of July because I had the stat written down that he has a 1.69 ERA since July 1st. Guy's awesome.
Dude, so good. You hit the nail on the head, James. You can pat yourself on the back for that one. Carlos Carrasco has been crucial to this team. And like you said, we really just needed that length and consistency and to keep us in the game. And when the Mets are hitting the way that they have been, like 2 earned runs over 6 2/3 is just, that's easy work.
Definitely. He puts the Mets in position to win like almost every single start. It's why they've won his last 6 starts. That's why he has 13 wins. We know wins don't matter, but that's the second most in all of baseball. He also had 17 whiffs in this start, third most he had in a start this year, and 9 of them on the slider. I think it's interesting he got 9 whiffs on the slider because it was his most thrown pitch for the second consecutive start after it wasn't his most thrown pitch in any start this year. And I mentioned that last episode when that happened. And I think there's a trend now because we're seeing Carlos Carrasco have just impeccable command of that pitch. And when you have great command of a pitch like a slider, just why not throw it more often, especially when your fastball is as unimpressive as his is. Really loud truck coming here, but I'll yell. Really good to see Carrasco. Really good to see Carrasco make that adjustment. It seems like this slider thing is something that could stick.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about pitcher wins not being that important. If you remember back to the first episode of this season, we talked about the Chris Bassitt over wins when we were predicting like what would be some good bets for you to drop, and Chris Bassitt has hit that over wins pretty easily, and I think Carlos Carrasco, I would assume, has as well.
I bet Carlos Carrasco wasn't even like on the board. I don't think anyone thought Carlos Carrasco would get 13 wins this year. If anyone out there took Carlos Carrasco in your fantasy league, he has been an absolute godsend for you. 13 wins out of a guy who got to take like in the last couple of rounds, even your deeper leagues, like outside of the top 15 rounds. Alex is FaceTiming me right now. Oh my God. Mark and I both, we can say this now, both have an ex-roommate who just has the most inopportune FaceTime habits. It's unbelievable. As inopportunely as someone can FaceTime somebody else, he FaceTimes us.
He's probably listening to this, so just to let him know. He like FaceTimed me at like 10:30 the other day in the morning, which to normal people, that's an acceptable time. To me, it's not. And I was like, I'm sleeping. There's no shot. It's like, you'd be the first person I talk to in the morning. I can't do that at 10:30.
No, he'd be the first thing you see with your eyes, Alex. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
And I hope he listens to this. Now he'll know that I just ignored his call, which is kind of funny. But
that is funny.
Other cool thing that happened this game, Darin Ruf got another big hit. He has 5 RBIs and 15 Mets at bats, which is just ridiculous.
I love Darin Ruf. It just like takes Dan Vogelbach takes really good at bats. Tyler Naquin takes really good at bats. Darin Ruf takes really good at bats as well. Like putting these guys in the middle of the order, it's such an improvement on what we had with J.D. Davis and Dom Smith earlier in the year. It's crazy how much better this lineup and offense moves.
I'm also I'm racking my brain right now because I remember that he had a funny walk-up song, and when it happened, I was like, oh, that was a funny walk-up song, but now I can't remember it thinking back.
Darin Ruf, I know today.
I think it was a rap song, like a poppy rap song. And I was like, "That's Darin Ruff's walk-up song." I can't remember it right now.
You are right. It is a bit of a rap song, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. But today with the was it International Women's Day or was it just Women's Day at the stadium?
I have no idea, so I'm just gonna call it Women's Day because that's what the Mets official Twitter called it.
Yeah, because we're done with Game 2 now, so let's just move to Game 3. But Mets Twitter was saying that, or Mets official Twitter was saying that it was Women's Day at Citi Field. So a lot of the players on the Mets team were rocking songs or their walk-up songs by female artists, which I think leads to the question, James, who had the best one? Should we just like run through the entire list, or do we just want to say the ones that were the best?
No, we're going to run through the entire list. I'm pulling it up right now on Twitter. I was on our page because I was checking how well the Starling Marte giveaway is doing, and it's, wow, pretty good.
Yeah, no, we've gained quite a bit of followers. So
yeah, only a few followers we've gotten today. Messed Up is going to pass me tonight. That's depressing. Oh,
that
God.
You know what? That's good, though. That's good, because then it'll feed in followers to you on your personal one.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. All right, but here we got the list of... Also, I'm just scrolling past a great meme I made about, again, Tyler Bonds, because Tyler Naquin is Barry Bonds right now. We'll talk about how well he's played in a moment here, but... Taijuan Walker came out to Run the World by Beyonce, which is a heater. Pete Alonso, Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks, which is a banger, but also a pretty sad song, as most of Stevie Nicks' are. So
I don't think I know that song. I think that was one of the few that I don't know by name. Oh, that's a banger.
Yeah. Banger.
That's a
great
banger.
Song.
Yeah.
Mark Hanna, You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, but I think I like the... What'd you say?
Do you have what that one sounds like for me? I'm interested to see.
Yes, Kevin sang at karaoke in the office.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it.
Great song.
Yep.
Eduardo Escobar, Single Lady, second Beyonce appearance. Luis Guillorme, Juice by Lizzo, which I can't even imagine that Luis Guillorme picked this song. I feel like this is a situation where Luis Guillorme is like either forgot or just didn't do it, and the team just picked the most popular song they could think of.
Is Juice the one where it's like the popular TikTok song right now?
What?
Is Juice the popular TikTok Lizzo song right now?
I don't know. I'm not on TikTok enough to answer that question.
Okay. Well, yeah, Luis Guillorme picking Lizzo was never on my radar whatsoever.
Yeah. Francisco Lindor, My Boo by the Ghost Town DJs, which is not a song people know, but it's a very, it's like become a very popular like remix and meme song, which is like, it's just a funny song.
It's the Running Man Challenge, if you guys remember that from Vine back in the day.
Yes. Starling Marte, Inolvidable by Jenny Rivera.
It's a Latin song. Listen to it. Me and you would never have heard this one.
James McCann, 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton, and Wannabe by the Spice Girls, which is big for James McCann.
Big for James McCann, big for the stock. 2 respect points there because he picked 2 good songs for the day. Because normally James McCann's walk-up, we have to have a talk with him. It's not the strongest.
Imagine
typically.
Dragons.
He sees his walk-up music is not the best, but on Women's Day at Citi Field, he picked 2 good songs. So 2 respect points to James McCann.
Too bad. Jeff McNeil, What Dreams Are Made Of by Hillary Duff, which is really funny.
Bop. That's a certified bop right there.
Tomas Nido, Biddy Biddy Bom Bom by Selena.
Really good song.
Another banger. Brand Nimmo, Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain, which Keith was like, I really like this song. And then he was talking about it. And then Gary started talking, and Keith goes, are we on the air? And Gary goes, yes, we are in the air. Keith had no idea. He talked for like 30 seconds, basically about Shania Twain, that that they were on air.
That's an absolute banger, too. I remember being at a bar in San Diego, and that came on, and everyone stopped what they were doing, and they were really going hard singing, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. It's a good song. It's a great sing-along.
Very singable song. And then last one, Darin Ruf, We Are Who We Are by Kesha.
Which, like, Darin Ruff's 36. I don't know where the Kesha music and him really overlaps.
I don't know. Yeah, late prime. He had maybe a time in Korea. He took a lot of the Americanized culture that was a couple years behind. That's where he picked it up. And then also the one that's not on here, which I'm going to pick for my winner.
Yeah.
Daniel Vogelbach, Milkshakes by Keyless.
Yeah,
that's whatever. Oh my
that's
God.
a killer choice by Daniel Vogelbach. I can't believe they didn't include him on this list. Maybe it was a game time decision. He was like, I really got to think about this one. But yeah, Milkshakes is.
He was racking his brain.
It could have been. You never know. Like you have one chance to get the song right, and Dan Vogelbach hit it right on the head. If I wasn't gonna pick him, because obviously now knowing that, I think it was between Jeff McNeil, What Dreams Are Made Of, and Brandon Nimmo, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Like those, I think McNeil's is just the funniest though, because like I can totally see McNeil doing the little dance to Hillary Duff. This is what dreams are made of.
I don't know. I still think that that McCann. And also, I mean, Kansas is pretty good. You on the nose, that's a fantastic song, but it's a little bit too emotional for the baseball field, maybe.
That's a deep cut. Also, you brought up Keith, not knowing he was on air. Did you catch in Game 2 when he talked about not wanting to broadcast the Phillies games because he hates watching them play?
I saw it on Twitter, but I watched most of that game in a bar, so I missed I missed the comment. But can you go into it? Because today he talked about how much I believe didn't want to watch the Reds play because how bad of baseball they've been playing. Yeah. Gary just like went in a laughing fit.
Yeah, so Keith was talking about that he doesn't like doing the Phillies games. He hates broadcasting them. He's like, it's just not. They don't play good baseball. He's like, I don't like watching them play. Basically said like he hates Philadelphia, doesn't think the team's very good, and it's not worth his time to broadcast a game against them because they're the Phillies. Who cares about them? So he brought those sentiments into Game 3 against the Reds, who played really, really bad baseball in Game 3.
As bad at baseball as I can remember watching a team play. They were missing cutoff men. They were throwing balls around the field that shouldn't have been. It was just like it was bizarre baseball. Just they popping the ball up a lot too. Keith's like, this team has a lot of uppercuts, so why they keep popping it up. And I was like, I love that.
Gary put that on a tee for him. He's like, Keith, what do all these infield pop-ups mean? And then he dropped the uppercut line, which I think they started giggling. There was a lot of giggling going on in the broadcast booth today, which is exactly what you want when you're a Mets fan. When you hear those guys start get giddy, you know this game was completely out of reach, which it was early on.
Also because this was a day game and it was like really comfortable. Like also just temperature wise, we had like 2 of the hottest nights I can remember, or 2 of the hottest weeks I can remember in New York over the last 2 nights.
Yeah.
Monday we were at the ballpark. It was just like dripping in sweat, sitting in chairs. Tuesday I went to a concert. Shout out to Glass Animals. And it was just like I just couldn't stop sweating, and like I sat in an indoor air conditioned bar and was like still sweating. I was so hot, like I got like one of those fruity frozen drinks. Like I never get drinks like that. But I was like, they on the menu just like dive bar in Brooklyn. I just had frozen drink, and I was like, give me that. And it was just like,
James.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I guess I was like this apple strawberry pink like early thing, and I was like, this is incredible. I'm so proud to be drinking this right now. But it was just hot, and today like the humidity broke. The Mets were up early and didn't even have a moment where you ever thought they were possibly going to lose. And they were just having a little fun. I think it was camp day. It's always like, whenever there's a day game like this, I just call it camp day. There were a lot of kids there, though, and they were panning around to them. So a fun day in the park.
Yeah, Lindor, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, 3 runs. He tied, I believe, Jose Reyes for the most RBIs a shortstop's had in a season. And he also, the game before that, right, in Game 2, became the first Mets shortstop to have multi-20 home run seasons in a year, or in a career.
He also, in this game, with the first run he scored, tied David Wright with the Mets record for scoring a run in 13 straight games.
Dude's a good baseball player. His OPS is creeping up to the 820s now, I believe he's starting to get close to. Like, the dude is just scalding hot. Today, Game 3 felt like a perfect day to give him a day off, but I think Lindor's like, I'm hot. You don't take me out now. You can't do it. I want to play. I want to be out there playing the Reds and TJ Zoik, whatever his name is.
Yeah, now you just can't leave. I think Jeff McNeil also extended his hit streak to, I want to say 13 games after this one.
Got to double down the line.
Yep, Vogie had a 2 RBI double, got 3 RBIs in total. Of course, my man Tyler Naquin, another long home run, a double, balls in play of 107, 104 miles an hour. How good's this guy?
It's so sick. It's so sick that this guy is now part of this lineup. And, like, even when he's not, you could bring him off the bench and be like, competent Major League Baseball player. More than competent. Good.
Keith was like, Naquin's got some power.
That's a classic Keith thing to be like, until he shows me something, I'm not going to he can surprise me. I want to be surprised. And he definitely was by Naquin this week.
I mean, Tyler Naquin today, third highest OPS in the entire Mets lineup, only behind Pete.
7 of his 11 hits have been extra base hits. 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 2 triples. Yep. Sign me up every single day of the week. The trade has looked great.
439-foot home run on Wednesday, third longest by any Met at Citi Field this season.
It's disgusting.
And we know the longest is James McCann.
Yeah, James McCann. Jake Fraley hit a bomb this series too. He hit one off the Shea Bridge, which I didn't know he had that kind of power.
No, he's always had the good skill set. He's just never been able to play enough to actually show it off. And Keith was like, this guy has less than 200 batting average. He's really showing me something. Good eye, good power, good ball player. And I was like, it's pretty funny.
Keith was prime Keith this weekend.
Yeah, this was super Keith. Keith, I think, also has this aversion for the Reds from his Cardinals days and just from 70s, 80s baseball. And I think Nat, when a team that you don't like is also playing bad, you're just going to pile on them. Also, point. Pete in this game, 4 hard hit balls, 3 hits after he didn't get a hit for the first 2 games in this series. It was just this game was like butter, man. It was smooth and easy.
Isn't it nice, too? Because I feel like before the deadline and all the acquisitions, we talked about that the lineup, if Lindor and Pete don't do if they don't do it, it kind of has a hard time scoring. And Pete went 0 in the first 2 games, and the Mets were scoring like it was completely fine. They had no problems.
It's just easy as heck. Also, Taijuan Walker back on track after the rough start on Friday. 6 innings, 2 earned, 3 walks, 5 Ks.
Yep.
4-seamer, slider, split change, all working. And he has had those comments after the game about how disappointed he was in his start and how he felt bad the bullpen had to wear it. So really cool that, he got it in check. And it also just is kind of driving home a theme that we talked about last year with Taijuan about how much he very clearly loves day games. Yeah. He's our day man. All my Always Sunny Philadelphia fans out there, one of the greatest shows ever. 1.23 ERA for Taijuan this year in day games, 5.92 at night.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. And that's driven a lot by the 2 really bad starts he's had in night games this year. But it's just ridiculous. And he even said it. Gary talked about it. He could just wake up, go to the park, and he's pitching before he even thinks about what's going on. Where the night games, he kind of thinks about the start all day. So
that's
interesting trend to keep track.
Yeah, that Taijuan almost doesn't have enough time for a day game to get in his head or whatever it is.
Wait, I'm looking at the outline. Did we steal the big 3 from John? Did we just do it ourselves?
I think we might have.
Sorry, Johnny boy. That's a shame.
That's a shame. Yeah. We'll skip that one. I guess no big 3 for this episode. I literally didn't even scroll that far down on the notes to see.
Neither did I. Oh god.
Just for International Women's Day. That's funny.
Got a 6-game winning streak dating back to the Braves doubleheader Saturday. Mets stars have a 1.40 ERA in that time. Mets have also, we said at the top of the show, haven't trailed during the entire 6-game winning streak. There's also the 11th time the Mets have scored 10-plus runs this year, most in the National League. And this also completes a full turn through the Mets rotation, where no starter took 20 pitches, and also a 6-game winning streak, to get through the first. And I also saw a stat flash today. It was on the broadcast or on Twitter or something, that the Mets are seeing the most pitches of any team in the first inning this year from the hitter's standpoint, over 18.
That feels about right, especially with the new acquisitions. These guys just take a lot of pitches. So if you get through the first 3 and then you get to Vogelbach or whatever it's going to be, he always has a good at-bat. Naquin has a good at-bats. Ruff. We just keep going through it. This lineup is just so significantly better. And I got to imagine the doubters and the haters of this Mets trade deadline feel like they got a little egg on their face. And you know what? It's fine. Just admit you were wrong. The Mets made good moves. And you can be happy now that we got Tyler Naquin and Dan Vogelbach and Darin Ruf. You don't have to be curmudgeon-y anymore.
Even Michael Givens got some outs in this series.
Michael Givens had a nice little appearance in, what was it, game 1, I think, or game 2?
Two.
Yeah,
and then,
game 2.
Just overall, the Mets trade deadline acquisitions, right? So John, if you can get us how many at-bats they have total before, because I'd like to see what the sample on this is, but 348, 426, 652 slash, 5 home runs, 22 RBIs.
Big help for this Mets team, especially when the holes that they're really filling were, again, the J.D. Davis, Dom Smith holes that we were talking about, who didn't really produce at all this year. So to go from almost little to no production to elite levels of production is just, it's so wonderful. I welcome it with open arms.
And also, gets P the day off in the DH. It keeps Canna fresher, keeps McNeil fresher, keeps Guillorme fresher, keeps Escobar fresher. It's just
Nimmo got a day off too, which was nice.
More guys around here to carry the weight, and you don't really feel like you're missing that much, which is kind of the staple of a good team.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and now bring in John because, of course, we have the estimate. I don't know what we've come up with here to go with the last one because I technically lost because Edwin Diaz and Alexis Diaz didn't pitch a single pitch in this entire series.
If you had to ask me, I'd tell you that 0 is less than 5, right?
That is true, but if you're using the various sportsbook out there and you make a wager of sorts and they only play like 7 innings, sometimes they don't give it to you if you bet the under.
I see this more like you making a football bet and the receiver just never gets in the game.
It's interesting, John. I think we gotta let John make the decision here because I think we're on both sides.
I honestly think that the listeners should be the ones who make this decision.
Okay.
I'm not entirely
totally
sure
cool
that the three of us are equipped to make this. An extenuating circumstance we didn't see coming, but I think that let the people be the ones who decide the fate here. You guys cool with that?
Yeah, I'm down with
I'm
that.
totally cool with that because I know how badly the listeners all want to see Mark wear a tuxedo next April.
It seems like everybody wants me to be the guy that's wearing it. So I guess we'll put it on Twitter and Instagram. We'll put a poll out tomorrow. So on Thursday, the day that you guys are listening to this, whether or not you think that one should count. So as of right now, with an asterisk, it's what, 5-1?
Still 5-1, yes. James,
Okay.
to answer your question real quick, because sample size matters, 89 at-bats for those three. So, I mean, look, it's been exceptionally it's been great to watch those three, the injection of excitement, and there's not an easy out in this lineup.
Nope.
No.
It's just incredible. And real quick before we get into this episode's estimate, it's Darin Ruf. He had the best song. Darin Ruff's a vibe.
He is
I
a
mean,
vibe.
I'm going to ask DJ Razor. I don't know the song exactly, but I'm going to get it from DJ Razor, what Darin Ruff's up to for his at-bats. And then for him to go with Kesha, and you don't expect it.
Yeah.
You don't expect it at all. But low-key, like, this guy's got the tunes. Definitely. Yeah, I went to Greece last summer. Found a whole new catalog of music, so I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Where am I going next summer? I don't know. We'll find out. All right. Estimate. Here we go. Mets, Phillies, a big 3-game series. Citi Field's going to be raucous. Wear your black on Friday night. Max, Jake, back-to-back. Couldn't have it set up. And just great pitching matchups, actually. I'll let you guys preview that in a little bit. But Kyle Schwarber, second most strikeouts in all of baseball this season behind only Eugenio Suarez. 17 strikeouts and 51 plate appearances against the Mets only this year, a K rate of 33%. So, and I think I see Mark doing some thinking.
Yeah, I'm doing some thinking.
How many times will Mets pitchers strike out Kyle Schwarber during this 3-game series? And I'm going to throw it to Mark first because last week he wanted to go first so badly.
Yeah.
So, Mark, hopefully going first this week doesn't come back to bite you.
All right, that 33%, 3-game series, you got to think he's going to get about 12 at-bats or plate appearances, leadoff man. I'm going to go with 5. I think 5 is going to be my number for Kyle Schwarber in the series. 5 strikeouts
for the whole series.
Yeah.
That was exactly the number I was going to pick.
That makes me feel good because you've been pretty money with the numbers recently.
So now this is a tough call here. Now I kind of have to decide what type of future I'd like to go for myself here. How I want to root this series, like how I'm gonna feel. Because I almost have like I can go like it's basically gonna be one higher, one lower than 5 in either direction.
Yeah.
Almost can't get worse than that. I'm gonna just very quickly just like stall for a second and just see Kyle Schwarber's rolling K rate and see if it's something that's been trending up or trending down recently.
Look at this guy using fancy graphs, rolling
Luckily
K rate.
I have Fangraphs open right now as I usually do.
He's been striking out like a machine recently. I'll tell you that.
He has
I
been
just took
striking
a
out
look
like
at
a
his
machine
game logs.
recently.
He has been striking out like a machine.
I don't know if I love to hear that or not. I mean, I love it for the Mets. I don't know if I love it for this bet anymore or the estimate.
I am going to go less than 5.
Wow, okay.
Less than 5.
Ooh.
I think that's an upset. I would have gone over 5 just
Really?
because he's hitting leadoff in the lineup, and you got Max and Jake. Although he did take Max deep twice back in May. Wow, James, I'm kind of shocked.
I feel better with you taking the under than I do with you taking the over. I will say that.
I know that in these estimates, I've had a shocking amount of luck with unders, and I think that
You're an under guy. You've always been the under guy.
I think there's a good chance that that even if there's just one game where Kyle Schwarber strikes out one time, I do think that gives me some kind of advantage. Like Mark's basically banking on these multi-strikeout games. That could happen, especially against Jake and Max. But I have this feeling that Kyle Schwarber is a significantly, I'll even take this claim, better hitter than most hitters in this lineup right now, and I think he's faced Jake and Max enough, I think, to have more of a plan. I don't know. I just feel like this is a very big series for the Phillies, and he's the guy who's like kind of becoming their emotional leader. He's been playing some of the best baseball on their team. From a hitting perspective, I don't know what he's doing in the field as usual, but I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. I went with it.
It's going to be close. John, as always, thank you for providing the excellent estimate question.
Best of luck, fellas. Best of luck.
Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you next time. This is also a perfect time for us to transition now into that Matt Eddy interview. Like we said, from Baseball America. Dude's a genius. Dude's really smart over there. Baseball America, one of the best publications, especially when you're talking about prospects. It's actually kind of a connection that we got with James here because James knows him a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, I've applied to a couple jobs at Baseball America. Never got them, but Matt's always been a friend and a fan of the podcast since we began, basically. So cool to connect with him again. Also, it's great to pick his brain on the week of Baseball America's big drop of their top 100 and all of their individual team top 30s, including the Mets, of course, which kind of spurred this interview. Also, just amazing to talk to Matt because he kind of growing similar to Mark, growing similar to me. He's never really done anything that wasn't just like analyzing baseball prospects. I believe from him talking to him before that his first job out of college was with Baseball America, and he's just risen to the top being executive editor. So,
which is awesome. So
really, really cool. Good to hear from Matt. And yeah, let's take it away.
All right, so we now are joined by Matt Eddy of Baseball America. He came on the podcast last year, did something similar, talking prospects, Baseball America, the place to go if you want your prospect information. And Matt's a pretty big guy over there, along with a big Mets fan. So we're super excited to pick his brain, start talking about some of these Mets prospects after a Red series that was relatively not that exciting in the grand scheme of things compared to what just happened with the Braves this past series. So, Matt, thanks for coming on. We do appreciate you hopping back on the Mets'd podcast.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. It's been onward and upward for you guys as a team.
Yeah, a little bit different than the last time you spoke to us.
Same time of year, though, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Matt, just to start out, I think the number one prospect every single Mets fan wants to talk about, number one Mets prospect we get the most questions about is Francisco Alvarez. Recently moved up to AAA Syracuse. I think I'm assuming he's number one in the new Mets top 30 that's dropping probably Thursday when you guys are listening to this show on Baseball America. So just pontificate on Alvarez for a few minutes. Tell me your favorite things about him.
Yeah, Alvarez, you don't find much disagreement that he's going to hit and hit for power. I think conservatively you go to 60 on both on the 20/80 scale. There's not unanimous agreement on how good defensively he's going to be, but he has the tools and the makeup, more importantly, to stick at catcher. So I think that's where he's going to play, certainly the large beginning portion of his career. He's an excellent prospect, to be as young as he is, hitting a AAA. Yeah.
Do you think that there's a chance that if he came up this year at the major league level, he would be someone who could adjust to the major league pitching well?
It's possible. The trades the Mets have made have lessened that demand, but I think it's possible if you kind of ease him in, bat him 7, 8, 9 to start and kind of get his feet wet.
Do you think that there is at least any likelihood still, even at this point in his development, that catcher is not where he winds up, or do you think that's the destination for Alvarez defensively?
Yeah, it's definitely the destination. Definitely in his 20s. The issue is, like, in addition, aside from DH, there really isn't an obvious place you would play him. So that he's, catcher or DH. The good news being that he's got a middle of the order bat. So either way.
Yeah. One other thing I just wanted to talk about Alvarez is that I've seen that he's only been a few weeks in AAA, so the sample isn't really great, but we have seen his plate discipline look very similar to how it's looked at other parts of the minors, but the walk rate has had a few tick increase. Is that something that is normal when a guy jumps a level, or is that just because of the weird talent disparity now between AA and AAA, or what could be the reason for an increased walk rate from AA to AAA?
Yeah, it might be a bit of the latter. I think we are seeing the new AAA reality. Pitchers are a little older. They nibble a little more than used to be the case. because the best pitchers are needed on the major league team. So the AAA talent tends to be a little less on the pitching side.
I want to switch topics here, or switch gears, I should say, a little bit more, because we're still talking prospects. The Mets did a really good job this trade deadline of not giving up any of their big pieces and still improving as a team. But a lot of people do feel like that the moves that they did make maybe weren't as good as they would have liked, or that they gave up too much, specifically in that Darin Ruf trade. The guys that I think we got rid of were Nick Zwak, Carson Seymour, and I'm forgetting one more. James, do you remember the guy's name? Oh, yeah, Zapucki. Zapucki was the guy. So who do you think, or what did you think of those guys, just to maybe calm Mets fans down a little bit? These aren't the major pieces.
We had Carson Seymour ranked the highest. He was, 7th round last year.
Yeah.
The Mets internally kind of viewed him more as like a power ground ball profile upside for him. Sinker, breaking pitch. But he did pitch better at high A than he had at low A, which is encouraging. Zwak was one of the big helium guys because he was a 17th rounder who went from completely off the radar to a top 30 guy. Deception, 3-pitch left-hander. He's tall, good extension. Again, with him, though, I think with both, you're probably looking relief or swingman type upside. So I would expect both will probably pitch in the major leagues, but not have tremendously high ceilings.
Did you think that there was enough reason, just stay with the trade deadline, enough reason for the Mets to have held on to their other mid-top 10 type prospects, the Vientos, the Mauricio? I know Baty seemed like was untouchable as well, but then like Ziegler, maybe even Javier Atencio and Joel Diaz, some other guys were creeping into the top 10 as pitchers. Do you think any of those players, as they are right now, ceilings, were worth keeping in exchange for rental that could have helped this major league team?
Based on what I know, I wouldn't call them untouchable. I don't know exactly what was on the table. Would it make sense for 2 months of Wilson Contreras? Maybe, maybe not. Like, that's kind of what we're viewing as the big fish. Mm-hmm. The Phillies, when they traded for David Robertson, Ben Brown's not a household name, but he's building a lot of esteem among scouts. So he might have been viewed as comparable to any of the players you mentioned to other teams.
I know that Ziegler, there's right now in your guys' top 30 rankings, there's a big chunk of the Mets pitchers. So from 8 all the way down to, I think 14 is all Mets pitchers with Ziegler, Tidwell, Matt Allen, Joel Diaz, Budo, Mike Vasil, and Dominic Hamill. Which one of those guys do you think really sticks out as your favorite in that group of the young Mets pitchers?
That's a good one. Matt Allen at his best, I think, would hold that title. We haven't seen him at his best really since the alternate training site. They expect him back in instructional league. That's like the realistic timetable for his return. We haven't seen him since his brief 2019 pro debut. So for upside, I'd pick him. For another pick, Ziegler is interesting. Power stuff. He's young. Needs to throw more strikes. And Hamill has some interesting traits too, but I think I would stick with Allen.
Okay, interesting. I know like this Mets after the draft that just happened, and we'll speak on the draft here in a second, but the Mets farm system as a whole has just looked as a lot deeper, a lot stronger, and especially not making those trades. Over at Baseball America, what are you guys just thinking as the farm system as a whole right now?
Yeah, they entered the season number 16. I think they would definitely move into the top 10 consideration. Kevin Parada and Jet Williams, the first rounders, were consensus guys. That puts them in the discussion for 10. I forget whether the Padres ranked ahead of them, but they certainly will not rank ahead of the Mets now. But I think 10 as a ballpark is a good place to start.
Yeah, out of those Mets draft picks, who was one your favorite pick, and then who was Baseball America the highest on? Whether if those are the same or different?
Yeah, that would be Parada, Kevin Parada, the Georgia Tech catcher. I believe there was some scuttlebutt that he might be a 1-1 consideration, so that he fell to 11th. Not entirely sure why that was the case, but it was tremendous value at 11th overall when you have a catcher who hit more home runs than he had strikeouts, I believe, and like Alvarez has 6 hit, 6 power upside, and middle of the order type of production profile. I think I think that's the pick.
I know a lot of Mets fans get a little bit confused seeing a guy like Francisco Alvarez in the system, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, and then seeing them go after a guy like Kevin Parada. Me and James have tried to explain many of times why that doesn't necessarily matter, but maybe you can put it into better words as to why a guy like Kevin Parada is such a valuable prospect in the system.
Yeah, baseball's a funny game, isn't it? You're just trying to stockpile the most talent. Player values can be elastic. Players fail for all sorts of different reasons, so it's always good to have reinforcements. And in the case of these two in particular, DH is on the table as a position. They would be capable of playing in the major leagues if they reach their upside potential.
That's pretty funny. I always like to hear a scuttlebutt mention on a show. It's one of our better words this episode.
Hornswoggle, scuttlebutt. There's a lot of great words that sound funny in the English language.
Staying with the comparison of guys the Mets drafted in correlation with guys the Mets already had in their system, on this new list from Baseball America, you guys have Jet Williams ranked one spot ahead of Ronnie Mauricio on the Mets list. Ronnie Mauricio is a guy that I think Mark and I, and also Mets fans and even scouts in general, seem to have gone back and forth on a number of times over the last few years. What about Jet, or what about Ronnie's recent performances had those two ranked in that order?
Yeah, Mauricio is a really tough player to evaluate right now. Scouts love the raw power. He does have pretty good game power. I think there's a growing sentiment that hitting just doesn't come natural to him, that he's more of an ambush hitter. He's probably not a shortstop. So you begin to kind of detect these cracks in the armor where he's a good prospect, but he's no longer top 100 for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's carrying a 290 on base percentage over the past two seasons. So it's really tough to find star MLB players who had an OBP that low for that long.
Yeah.
And then Jet Williams, he's a player the Mets are really high on, like other teams. I think they've been on him since the showcase last year. He's a 5-tool player, power potentially more average than above, but he plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think there's a lot of confidence that he's going to hit and play up the middle.
Jet definitely has a chip on his shoulder. We spent accidentally an entire rain delay with Jet the day he signed his Mets deal, and he's a confident young man, but he definitely seems very motivated in that tiny package.
And I feel like I've heard from everybody, he has almost I don't want to say the it factor, but he has something that everybody in baseball seems to fall in love with. They're he's a good player, but he has almost these intangibles that you can't really show on the field that just makes you have even more confidence in this guy.
Oh yeah, 100%. Other players kind of gravitate toward him. Yeah.
And then we saw that there's the other two Mets draft picks. I mean, we mentioned Blade earlier coming in at 9. Then you have Nick Morabito and Jacob Reimer as well in the top 30. Give us a little bit on those guys, because once you start to get out of the first two rounds, Mets fans, just baseball fans in general, I think probably start to get a little bit less interested in the prospects just because of the name recognition. But these guys are coming right into the system in the top 30, according to you guys over at Baseball America. So fill in the listeners at home with what you got on them.
Well, it's easier in the Mets system because it is shallower than some systems, so it's easier to crack. But that's not to say they're not high on these players. Morabito is a DC kid. He's an athletic, compact, athletic right-handed hitter who they have really good run times on, so they really like the athlete and run, his ability to stick in center field. There's some lower half cleanup that needs to be completed with his swing, but they're confident that they have like Williams, they have a high school hitter who hits and can stay up the middle. So that's what they're excited about there. Reimer is going to move to third base. Yeah. He's a little more divisive among scouts. I think the Mets were probably higher than most teams on him, but he's a guy who's got some good hitting traits. He tested really well in a team workout, so they're confident in the data they generated in their scouting looks.
Just kind of a question about these kinds of rankings and evaluations in general. You talked about the Mets nearing the top 10 of all farm systems in baseball. Then moments later, we talk about how shallow the system is and how these new draft picks are able to basically infiltrate the top 15 list. Where in your guys' rankings at Baseball America does more importance lie on these potential impact major leaguers that are close to the league versus these types of either high upside, lower level guys who seem to have higher ceilings, or even just generally organizational depth? Because it seems like this Mets farm system is unique in terms of the rest of the league, and that just seems like it'd be like a very strange challenge to rank.
Yeah, our philosophy is to favor star power and upside. So therefore, a system led by Francisco Álvarez and Brett Baty and now Kevin Parada is gonna factor pretty highly when we put these talent rankings together. Depth matters, of course, but we have found that in our view, the star power is what really drives postseason success.
Definitely. I've taken a look at the list now, and there's a bunch of different names on there that maybe we haven't seen in the past of some guys. Who would you say outside of like the big name top 10 prospects is your favorite on this Mets list right now?
Well, Nick Zwack was one of those guys, but the other helium guy is a Dominican Summer League shortstop named Jesus Baez. He's got some good hitting traits. He's got some good power production in the DSL. The batting average is backed up, but there is some confidence that he will hit and potentially fulfill like a power hitting third baseman type of profile. He's one I'd keep an eye on. He's got a chance to move up this list pretty dramatically, especially if he plays well in low A or the FCL next year.
Nice. And Mark asked you about the pitchers a little while ago, and Zwack was the guy who had the great results this year with the helium, and now he's gone. But anyone else from that list who you've seen anything major from this year where you think you can point to a guy and say he's going to be a starter in the future between Hamill, Budo, Diaz, Atencio, Ziegler? Is there another guy from that list I'm forgetting?
Tidwell, but he hasn't.
Tidwell,
really
I guess, but yeah, it's too many. You can include him in this.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It is kind of a weak point in the system now because we have top 7 prospects or position players. There's a lot to be encouraged with Ziegler based on what he's shown in terms of bat missing ability. But he's so young and so far away, and still probably too wild to feel super confident. But he's probably the name here. Like as you go down the list. Luis Rodriguez, the left-hander, had Tommy John surgery. Yordani Ventura, the 21-year-old right-hander, is coming back from TJ, and he's looked really good. I guess I would put him as another helium guy to kind of keep an eye on. He's got a wide repertoire, and he's kind of building some success at low A. So he's one that doesn't exactly answer your question, but he's another name I would bring up.
No, I know with this Mets farm system in particular, like pitching is definitely not one of the strengths. Like you said, the first 7 guys in this are all hitters, and those are probably the 7 names that all the Mets fans do know in the system. So trying to find these spots where the pitchers maybe could be guys that we could look forward to is definitely interesting. I know one guy that I had my eye on was Junior Santos, who's now up in Brooklyn, and he has a big arm. I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm. I think he's just a big guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested in what your thoughts on were Junior Santos. I know, like, again, with all these guys that are so young, lower down in the system, it's a little bit tough. If their ceilings were higher, they'd be higher in the rankings. But what's to like about Junior Santos outside of like the big major arm, or is that kind of the thing?
Yeah, that's a selling point. He throws a lot of strikes for a pitcher that tall, which is good to see. It doesn't seem like he has the separator, second pitch to go with the arm strength at this time. So there's not a ton of confidence that he's going to hold the rotation spot, but he would be a name of interest for sure.
One guy who also just got recently promoted up AAA, Jose Budo. We've talked about on this show a lot. I believe you mentioned him last year. Is he someone who, based on the stuff he has in his repertoire, do you think could be in the mix for even possibly a relief spot this year as the Mets get closer to crunch time of the season?
He would be a candidate. He's on the 40-man roster. I think the strike against him is limited AAA time and just no more September call-ups in the sense that there used to be. He'd be somebody who might compete for a bullpen spot next year or a spot start or two. It sounds like, as a fastball changeup right-hander, your command and your changeup have to be outstanding to be a major league starter, and he's good. It's a 6 changeup for sure, but he might not be quite at that level where you're confident he's a part of the rotation.
Is the fastball more like a 4.5, or is it even worse than that?
I think you grade it as a 50. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to hear that. Because Budo's a guy that we've been talking about ever since we've done the prospect stuff. We've just been digging for names because everybody knows, again, the guys at the top. So we've been digging from last year for some names. Budo is one of the guys, but one of the other guys, especially James, was very hip to early. And it might have been because, reading a lot of your guys' stuff as well, was Alex Ramirez, who you guys have at number 4 right now. And it seems like top 100s across baseball. Alex Ramirez has been scattered all over the place. So what are your guys' thoughts on Alex Ramirez as a prospect for the Mets?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a guy who's got the tools, he's got the look, now he has the performance. I'm surprised at how well he's hit, especially hit for average. I think that was supposed to be the weak part of his game, but, he came out very hot at low A and has managed to hold his own at high A at a very young age. So he's definitely an up arrow guy who, we've moved into our top 100 around, mid-season, June, July. So he's a guy with some helium. The upper levels will determine how much he actually hits. But in terms of tools, you might not find a toolsier overall player in the system.
Love to hear that. I think of all the toolsy players the Mets have had in the past, and some have been hit or miss, Fernando Martinez, but a guy like Alex Ramirez, it is super encouraging to see that as one of the younger players at every level, he has performed seemingly above his age, which is nice.
Yeah, it's also encouraging because I feel like a lot of these Mets development successes over the last half of a decade, mostly have been draft picks. I know we've had a few. Rosario and Jimenez are both seem to have been hits out in Cleveland now since the Lindor trade, and Alvarez is very close. But it seems like the Mets have really been finding great ways to get their draft picks to the majors, but a little bit less with international players. So it's nice to see Ramirez even just get the helium to be a top 100 guy.
Yeah, they had a run from 2012 to 2018 where Ahmed Rosario, you mentioned, Ronnie Mauricio, Francisco Alvarez, all these guys who are in contention to be number 1 in the system, and Andres Jimenez, another one that you mentioned. So they've had a pretty good run. We'll see if they can keep it up. But it was a really good run for guys who shot to the top of the system.
Definitely want to bring up Mark Vientos as well, because I think a little bit less now with Darin Ruf now coming into the fold and being able to crush left-handed pitching. It doesn't seem there's as big of a hole, but there still are September call-ups, and Mark Vientos is a guy who's been at AAA, I think, for the entire season pretty much, and has had some relative success. Do you think Vientos is going to be a guy that, what can we expect from him when he comes up, honestly?
He's another tough one to evaluate because the power is real. He's proving his discipline has been good overall at AAA. There's more strikeouts than you typically see with a top prospect at that level. But the power is real. The position is probably more first base. I think those sorts of positional limitations make it more challenging to rank a player, at least for us on the top 100. But he's a tough one, because you have the power and the strikeouts in such abundance. Sometimes it takes these guys a little bit longer to kind of find their way in the major leagues. So I don't know if I would expect impact right away in an everyday type of role.
When you see a guy like that who is shown prodigious power at every level of the minors, but still can't seem to, one, put the bat in the ball very consistently or even lift the ball very consistently. We've talked a little bit about his ground ball rate still hanging out above 50% for most of the year. Where do you see even a long-term ceiling for a player like that?
On the high end, somebody like a CJ Cron might be in play. On the low end, Renato Nunez, somebody like that, Michael Franco, guys like that.
Okay.
It all depends. If he makes the most of his balls in play, then
His ground ball rate, the concept of the way a player lifts the ball, is that something that is that something that is actively trying to be developed out of guys, or is that wind up just coming maybe at the expense of other aspects of a player's approach? Is that a key area of development this late in the game, upper minors, major leagues?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you're trying to optimize the exit velocity and the launch angle continually until players have major league success. And we've seen a number of players achieve that. It remains to be seen whether some of these guys will, but I think, it's that development is ongoing.
I feel like the last guy we probably want to talk about here in the system, because we haven't touched too much on him, is going to be Brett Baty, who just got the promotion to AAA along with Jose Budo. Somebody who me and James have the more and more I watch of this guy, I mean, I fall in love with his game. It seems like he's a really, really good hitter. Seems like he's pretty patient at the plate. And I feel like the, scouting report when he first came to the Mets was that he probably wasn't going to stick at third, or that he wasn't athletic enough to maybe play that position. But it seems like as the years have gone on, as he's played more games, he's getting more and more comfortable there. So much so that, I mean, they've even thought about putting him in the corner outfield because he's such a good athlete. So I'm interested to see what you think about Brett Baty and, what you think the ceiling could be on that guy.
Yeah, he's a really, like you say, he's a good hitter with power, and he's starting to hit the ball in the air more often, to speak to James's last point, and starting to see the results of that. I expect him to be probably like a solid average to maybe above major league player. I think it's fair to say rival scouts are less sold on him at third base. But as you mentioned, left field is also a possibility. So that might be where we see Baty the most in his early major league career. But overall, like him quite a bit.
Yeah, Brett Baty actually this year in Double-A had a higher WRC plus than Francisco Alvarez while he was at the level.
That's crazy. I mean,
he's not getting enough credit for having like one of the most impressive Double-A seasons that from player 22 or younger. I can remember that recently, honestly.
Wasn't he one of the guys too at the Futures game that they said they loved watching him take BP along with Alvarez? Yep. That they were like, he's super impressive to watch hit. I mean, we saw him at the Fall League and we're like, oh, this dude's a really good ball player.
In terms of I'm just on Fangraphs right now. In terms of all players who took at least 100 plate appearances Double-A this year, Brett Baty has the fourth highest WRC plus, third highest of players 22 and younger. And the only two better are Colton Cowser and Gunnar Henderson, two standouts from the Baltimore system. That's just the guy that's pretty unbelievable. He has done that this year. And
Cowser, that's still a pretty small sample, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just over 100, 140 plate appearances as of now. Baty has 400 plate appearances this year at Double-A. The most, I think it's the most in the league.
What would you say the biggest difference is between the Double-A and Triple-A jump? Because I know we talked about it earlier. You said that the pitchers at Triple-A nibble a little bit more, but in general, I think there's just kind of been like almost a little bit of a changing in that. You look at a lot of these AAA teams now, and they're just filled with 35 to 40-year-old guys that are just sticking around and are basically depth pieces, where Double-A is where all the great prospects are. So what value do you put on those two levels compared to each other?
Yeah, I think the players will tell you that it's the pitching approach is a lot different. Pitching backwards, landing off-speed pitches, landing breaking pitches for strikes. I think that goes up, but the pure velocity and power probably does not go up that much. Mm-hmm. And if you play in the PCL, the field conditions are unique. you have altitude, you have the really, really hard surfaces from the desert conditions. So that doesn't pertain to the Mets anymore since they're out of Vegas.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was a weird couple of years.
Yeah, the Vegas 51s. I mean, the Mets, the AAA for the Mets have been all over the place. It seems like they found a nice little home in Syracuse, although I don't know what it's like to hit up in Syracuse all year either.
April in Syracuse must be a bear.
Must be horrible. Must be freezing.
Yeah, that's the part of the world I grew up in. So yes, it is in fact horrible, weather-wise.
James, you have any final questions here for Matt before we let him shout out Baseball America and tell us all about that?
I like that we touched on the Double-A, Triple-A differences, because something I've been trying to hammer home for a few months. But could we just get like 5 minutes talking about the general top 100 of Baseball America right now?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask about Jackson Chourio? Because he has come out of nowhere in your guys' list to be like back end of I think he was like in the 70s in the offseason. Now he's up to 2. So can you talk about what drove that ranking, what you see in Chourio as a prospect? Just to bring this to prospects in Major League Baseball for all of our listeners for a few minutes.
Yeah. The way this is playing out, like an 18-year-old dominating low A, going to high A with no adjustment, period. It's playing out like Wander Franco. It's playing out like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Big names.
And that's not the only reason. We were hearing from scouts who were putting 7s overall on Chourio last year in the DSL, and he's gone out. He dominated extended spring for the Brewers. Didn't miss a beat at low A or high A. We just think like ultimately this is where things are headed. So we're just going to get ahead of the curve.
We saw that, the Nationals made a couple big moves for some big prospects in Abrams, Woods, Hassel, all guys that are Hassel and Abrams, I believe, are in the top 25. And then Woods I believe is in the top 50 at least, or top 40 even. What do you think about just that trade package back in general for a guy like Juan Soto? Because I don't think anyone Juan Soto's 23 years old. That's like some of these top prospects' age right now on this list, and he's an MVP candidate every year. So when you think about that package back, I mean, at least it's topical now with them being Nationals players as well. We might have to see them in a few years.
Yeah, I think it was as good a return as could be expected for a player of Soto's stature. I think, like, let's assume that the pitchers are a big shrug generally, but let's assume the 4 position players pan out. That's what 24 seasons of control plus for potentially 4 position regulars. Like, that's how organizations look at it. But potentially high value 24 seasons when you're talking about James Wood and Robert Hassel and CJ Abrams and the other obvious guy I should be remembering right now, but I'm not. And in terms of upside,
it was Yarlin Susana.
Yeah.
Harlan Susana.
Yeah, Abrams. But in terms of upside, like, this could be viewed as there is a universe in which this could be viewed as the Susana and Wood trade, the Abrams and Hassel trade.
Okay. I like that. That's interesting.
When a player like Abrams, who's so highly touted, so highly regarded, has such great success in the minor leagues, comes to the majors and has such sustained struggles as he has, how do you guys view that part of his evaluation? What kind of, like, how important does that become?
Yeah, it definitely does weigh a player down to some degree. With Abrams is a trickier evaluation because he's had such interruptions through his development time. 2020 gone, 2021 missed half the year with an injury. This year he's been up and down. I think from what we understand, like, some physical growth and maturation are required for Abrams to reach his ceiling, but definitely that sort of plus shortstop on both sides of the ball is definitely in play as an outcome. So I would just look forward to some more growth in those areas.
And then I feel like I got to ask, since we'll wrap up the top 100 here, who is your favorite guy that's towards the back end of the top 100 that you think could have maybe the most helium in the next ranking for you guys?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know. I like looking through this list. The top 100 is
there's two guys. There's 2 guys I think just from playing in a dynasty league with Matt. But I kind of want to hear what he says.
Yeah, well, whenever somebody says that's a good question, it means you stumped them. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at the back of our list.
No, I know one guy in particular that I love is Emmanuel Rodriguez with the Twins, but it's the same thing that you get with a lot of these younger guys, where it's just like they're at such a low level that it's hard to really project how it's gonna go against the better competition. But that dude's absolutely raking. I love him. There's a kind of a growing concern with the quality of pitching in low A, like what to make of those offensive results, because what we're hearing pretty consistently is that the quality of low A pitching has never been worse. It's never been younger, and it's never been worse in terms of execution and strike throwing. I'm looking at the back of our list now. James, you go ahead. Who are your sleepers?
I mean, the guy I've loved this year, 2 guys particularly. One of it was Manuel Rodriguez, but I thought he was a low-hanging fruit. I'm starting to really love Jackson Merrill. He just does so many things well, and you see those well-rounded players at that age who are able to just put together incredible results with their age combining against their level. And you see a system like the Padres, who's found ways to develop these up-the-middle guys really successfully, and I give some credit to that. The other guy who I fell in love with from, like, the middle of May, I guess even late April, was Ceddanne Rafaela of the Red Sox. Just an absolute freak athlete. I think he's been at Pawtucket most of the year, but he's a real mover. You see that kind of athletic profile in a baseball player a guy who can hit a little bit, and you're just like, you just kind of freak out the potential.
Yeah, as I scan the back of this list, I'm on board with Merrill. I think if not for the injuries that he's had this year, he's missed most of the year. I think we would be talking about him potentially higher. I think he's potentially that good. Vaughn Grissom of the Braves also sticks out, kind of a natural hitter. Questions about power and position, but the Braves have such a good track record with just developing major league regulars. So those would be my 2 guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, we want to give you a chance to go ahead and shout out everything you guys do over there at Baseball America. Let everybody know what's going on, the top 30s dropping and all that. So go ahead. Here's your plug.
Yes, our final in-season top 30 prospects for every organization are available this week. Certainly by the time you're hearing this. So we've updated for the final time all year every farm system, integrated draft picks, put in the helium guys, and moved guys accordingly, at least by our estimation.
All right, great. Matt, thank you again for coming on with us. Second time, so now we got to do this again next year, second week of August, just like we did the last 2 years. So thanks again. Everyone go out there, get your subscriptions to Baseball America to keep track of these prospects that Matt was telling you about.
And Matt, we got to get you up here in New York for a game at some point too.
Yeah, surely. Maybe October, Matt. Go on.
Yeah, maybe October.
All right. Thanks again, man. We'll appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, always fun talking with Matt. Always fun. The dude's got a lot of knowledge. And weirdly enough, because we technically recorded like that episode a little bit earlier than we recorded this one, he hit the nail on the head with Vaughn Grissom because he just got called up by the Braves.
Yeah, pretty amazing call. Now that they're talking about next impact, not really next impact player, but a guy to keep an eye on gets called up 24 hours later, even if that.
So let's go ahead and preview this Philly series here because this is a big one. It's big. I don't think maybe that enough Mets fans are considering how big this series is.
Massive.
While the Phillies are 10 games back, they have a chance to make up some ground here, and the Mets have a chance to really separate themselves again, which they did against the Atlanta Braves. Keep playing good baseball. I don't think the Mets will have any problem, but that being said, this Phillies team is playing significantly better since they fired Joe Girardi. They do have better pitching, especially with Noah Syndergaard, although we won't see him.
I believe they're 40-19, if I remember correctly, since they fired Joe Girardi.
It's almost like using numbers and stats and being smarter makes you a better team. I don't know about you, James. How you feel about that?
Yeah, not being a hard, though, seems like it's really good for your baseball team. But
yeah,
they have been playing good baseball. I very famously picked them to win this division preseason, which is hilarious.
Crazy.
Even though the Phillies are much closer to the Braves than the Braves are to the Mets right now.
That's very true.
This is a team that's playing well. This is a team that has a pretty interesting and I think roster that could be a little bit troublesome if you got into a situation in October. Also, we have an idea of the Phillies in our head right now. We pummeled them through April and May, annihilated this team, kind of set the Mets on this run that would kind of, get their season going on the right track, kind of got them momentum, kind of got them hot. We swept them May 27, 28, and 29th. Their record was 21-27 at the time. Since that moment, the Phillies are, let me just pull it up real quick.
I think that's the 40-19 since then.
Oh, really? It's 40-19 since then? Because they fired Girardi after that?
They're 61-48 right now, so I think it actually might have been the 40-19 right there.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I guess it is. So that's basically since they saw the Mets. So when you play teams, not the Mets, it's very easy to stack up victories. However, the Mets are coming back to town. But this team has found a couple of semi-decent bullpen pieces, which is a change of tone from the Phillies that we've known either earlier this year or in the past. Mostly Connor Brogdon, who I shouted out earlier this season. He has very good stuff, good fastball. He's pitching very well for them. They just traded for David Robertson, as most Mets fans know. Also, Andrew Bellotti, a crazy person who pitches in relief for them. Someone I mentioned very briefly, I think either in our preseason or spring training episode, someone I thought can make noise in their pen who didn't really have a roster spot. Guy just has good stuff. He crushes Red Bulls and runs sprints onto the mound.
Which I know nothing about Andrew Bellotti, so you're filling me in on this information now. I was going to bring up Sir Anthony, who's actually a good closer for them, which is something they're not used to. They also did just cut Jerry's Familia, so they're even more enemies now. They got rid of one of the former favorite Mets.
And Alvarez, who still strikes the world out, but also just can't really throw strikes. I don't remember. He's been going up and down this year. I don't even know if he's on the team.
Just give me Brad Hand. Someone needs to get to Brad Hand because the fact that he has
I'm not mentioning Brad Hand's good stats because I hate him.
The fake 2.2 ERA.
With a 1-2 whip.
With a 1-2 whip, he has a FIP at 3.4. Like, Brad Hand, it's coming. It's coming soon. I hope it's the Mets. We have some lefty killers now. Darin Ruf. I would love to see Darin Ruf getting at bat against Brad Hand. I would be smiling ear to ear.
Same with Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso and Starling Marte. But
yeah.
Also, this Phillies lineup is packed with power, even without Bryce Harper. I famously told Mark the day that Bryce Harper broke his thumb that it wouldn't really affect this Phillies team that much, and they would still be in the thick of it until the end. And Mark said, "You're crazy. No, Bryce Harper's going to kill them. They're dead."
I do think, though, that your statement was, like, you were right, but I don't think you were right.
I think I was right in the fact that just an everyday DH, even though if you're one of the best hitters in baseball, won't affect your bottom line a ton. Yeah. And it hasn't. He's going to come back. He's going to make them better. Of course, Bryce Harper makes them a better team. But I was just saying the way that the Phillies were playing at time, hanging out near 500. There were other parts of the team. I just felt like the hitters were still going to be able to pick him up. It was the pitching and the bullpen need to step up for them to actually get hot, and that's happened. Also, Real Muto's gotten really hot. We talked about Schwarber before. Rhys Hoskins is hitting the crap out of the ball. Alec Boehm has a batting average near 300, which is making the old heads look alive, even though he's lost all of his power and draws no walks.
Yeah.
So
I got a lot of smack for talking about Alec Boehm. People were like, "Well, he's hitting 300." I'm like, "Yeah, well, he still can't play third, and the power."
yeah, it's still not exactly that much changing his bottom line. Gene Segura also came back last week after missing 2 months on the shelf, so really great we get to see him in time. But Gene Segura misses 2 months, and the Mets get him for every single series. Riddle me that one.
I can't believe it. Gene Segura is such a thorn in our side. That guy is just he's a pro's pro, I would say.
He's definitely a pro's pro. He's the pro-is pro. You guys know I love Gene Segura. The guy's just a freaking ball player. He knows how to play the game.
I think the big thing to take away from this, though, is that the Phillies are not nearly as bad as when we first saw them, despite not having Bryce Harper. They're definitely a solid team. They're no longer. My running joke has always been the fourth place Phillies. I'm no longer saying it anymore because they're clearly the third best team in this division right now. They're not the fourth, and I mean they're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna be a playoff team. So there's
still a world where they actually do miss it, kind of.
Really?
Only if both of the central teams get hot, the Padres stay hot, and the Braves and the Mets stay ahead of them, like, significantly. They could keep the Phillies out, and I would love to keep. I mean, if you had given me the choice of the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Phillies.
Well, you get three wild card teams now, so I think they're pretty much locked into a playoff spot.
They're pretty much locked into it, but they're still worse than the Padres and the Braves. So I think they have like a 5 or 6 game cushion in the Cardinals or Cardinals or Brewers, whoever winds up second in that division. But still, it's not impossible they blow that. I mean, again, I'm saying I would love for the Phillies to blow that to a team in the Central.
For sure. And you know how we could do that? The Mets could take care of business and smack them around this weekend, which I really do think is in the realm of possibilities. It's just this is a better Phillies team. Now, what are the pitching matchups looking like? Who's on the mound?
Pitching matchups are good. Friday night, I think the Mets have a stern advantage with Ranger Suarez against Max Scherzer. Suarez, the darling of last year's second half, hasn't been as good, but still isn't like bad. He's this kind of soft tossing lefty. We hope that Darin Ruf is our lightning in a bottle to neutralize him. And then Saturday, there's a big one. I'm going to be there Saturday. I'm assuming you're going to be there Saturday too. Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I got a friend coming in from D.C. area. College buddies coming into town, so we're going to be at the game on Saturday.
Saturday, Nola versus DeGrom. That's literally as good as it gets. Aaron Nola has rebounded tremendously after I predicted him to do so this year to once again be one of the best pitchers in the National League. 2.6 ERA, more than a strikeout per 9, just over 4 WAR right now. The guy is freaking awesome. He's probably in contention for the Cy Young. He's so good. And then also Zach Wheeler versus Chris Bassitt on Sunday. Zach Wheeler also in contention for the Cy Young. So good. An unbelievable pitcher. These two guys, we talk a lot about the hitting and the bullpen, but having these two guys as the horses in this rotation has been what has kind of propelled the Phillies back into this pennant race.
Now, there is one name we have not mentioned. It's because he's ducking us again. It's Noah Syndergaard. Ducking the Mets. He's scared of him. I got a question for you, James. Noah Syndergaard, one, do the Mets do like a montage of him?
I mean, I have a feeling that our boy John over here, Johnny Cuts, is going to have some funny things on the board just to take shots at Noah Syndergaard. But I feel like the Mets, it was really just those like couple comments in the offseason as to why Mets fans would be against Noah Syndergaard. Because he had some great seasons for us. He had some of the best moments of like the 2015, 2016 seasons, like throwing behind Chase Utley, Alice Escobar, and Chase Utley.
Yeah.
The Ass in the Jackpot video was totally like because of Noah Syndergaard.
The 60 feet, I'm 60 feet, 6 inches away.
He's awesome. I mean, I don't know. It's so shocking he's on this team. I even feel like he kind of poked fun at being on this team. He posted 2 funny videos on Twitter night of the trade deadline about like going to a team that he like once hated. The prank he played in the Philly Fanatic where he stole like the little motor car. And we're probably going to get him next weekend in Philly if it lines up.
Probably, yeah. It seems like there's a chance that at least lines up. Okay, so montage we might be out on maybe, but do you think he gets booed?
I don't even think there's going to be a chance for him to get booed. He's not going to be announced. His name is never going to be said.
No, he'll get booed at some. They're gonna find a way to get him like a Noah Syndergaard.
I think he's gonna find a way to get highlighted, and I think he is almost excited. Like he wants to get booed. That's what Noah Syndergaard is. But I don't
like a camera on the field instead of going to a fan is probably gonna go to Noah Syndergaard. At some point.
But I don't blame the hate on Noah Syndergaard because he said like what did he say? It was like he wanted to go to the Mets were dysfunctional because they still hadn't hired like a coach or GM yet, and he wanted to go to a team with structure like crazy. The Angels. One of the most structured franchises in the history of baseball. That team is just a model of consistency year after year. All they do is sign bad contracts and not develop pitching or hitting. Nothing better than the Angels. Such a consistent, stable, sturdy organization.
Literally the last thing that the Angels would ever be called is stable right now.
No, I think it's just Noah Syndergaard. Translation, I wanted to live in Southern California for the next couple of months before I actually had to be a free agent. So I'm sure that I can respect. If you're honest about that, I respect it. I think it's just Noah Syndergaard poking fun at Mets fans. You know how easy we are to get fun poked at.
Yeah, John was saying he's going to be nice to Noah. He did say that the social media question of the day is going to be, what's the last book you read in honor of Noah Syndergaard's reading club, which is that's a good fun jab.
That's a good fun jab. But I mean, hey, it's a big series. Citi Field's gonna be rocking like it was last weekend. Won't be 100 degrees at night like it was last weekend with 80% humidity, which is
It's gonna be like 70s, right?
Yeah, people are gonna be able to wear jeans in the ballpark and not feel like death. You can go to the game and go out after and not be dripping in sweat.
That's incredible. I'm looking forward to that. I would like some post game bevs after a nice win over the Philadelphia Phillies.
100%. And just we got hot because of this team. They got cold because of us. They've been hot without us. We've been hot without them. Kill them. I hate this team. Murder them.
Yeah, really stomp on their throats.
As nice as I am to a team, that's just my objective like baseball analysis. I hate these guys. I hate these guys so much. I want to pulverize them.
Yeah,
I want to make them feel pain.
I'm not fond
I want to lose the estimate because Kyle Schwarber struck out every single at bat. 15 Ks in this series. 14.
There you go.
12 Ks in this series. I don't want him to get 5 at bats.
Yeah, exactly. Strike out all 12 times. That would be great, and especially because I would win and the Mets would probably be winning. But I think that's a perfect way for us to wrap up this episode of the Mets'd Up Podcast, episode 116. If you guys are not yet following us on our social media, at Mets'd Up everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Remember, on Twitter, we're giving away a Starling Marte signed baseball, so go over there, follow us, retweet the tweet. You'll be able to have a chance to win that. If you're listening, or if you're watching the YouTube video, check out the New York Mets YouTube channel. It'll be over there. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, you'll be able to find us. Drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, subscribe, whatever you got for us. We do appreciate it. Follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And follow me at GiraffeNeckMark with a C. That's where we'll wrap it up, guys. We'll see you after the Phillies series. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. See you next time.
Get up, get up, get up.